to my second preview for The Giver. This is going to cover chapter 5 through about chapter 7, which is the end of your first section. And as you saw in the first few chapters, we're getting a clear view of what the society is like and how controlled it is. All right? That this is a very regimental society, and there aren't a whole lot of choices that you make. And that's going to continue to develop in these next chapters, leading up to that big moment, the ceremony of 12, where things are going to start to change for Jonas. All right. So if we're looking at the path of the anti-hero, this first section of the book is where you're finding evidence that he agrees with his society, that he believes in what he's told, that he follows directions, and that he is concerned with fitting in, that he wants to do what's right for his society. If you spend these first 7 chapters tracking that, you're setting yourself up to be in good shape for the essay, all right? Because you want to prove that he starts out as sort of a good little drone, just doing what he's told, all right? And there's a lot of evidence of that. So now into some specifics about your chapters. Chapter 5, you're going to get into some more of their rituals, all right? This society is built on 2 things. You have ceremonies, where people get together and do certain things. And then there are the rituals, which are behaviors, patterns that they engage in. And there's a morning ritual where at the start of every day in your house, everybody shares their dreams with each other. They all tell each other what they dream. Just as at the end of every day, they tell each other how their day went. All right, so you're reporting this stuff on a constant basis. And Jonas has an interesting dream. It involves something called stirrings. And he finds out he has to take a pill. So what are stirrings? What's going on with the pill? And watch his reaction carefully. That's an excellent spot to find evidence that he agrees with his society. All right, by how he reacts to taking the pill and how he reacts to finding out he's having these stirrings and what worries him in that. All right. So keep track of that. And we're going to continue learning more about how society is operating and what happens when somebody breaks a rule. Whenever you see a rule breaker, jot down what's going on. How does society handle it? And watch how those speakers are used. We've already seen a couple instances. Watch the sorts of things when the speakers step in and announce there's a problem. Are these really big problems? And what's that tell you about society if these are the things they're tracking, okay? So then in chapter 6, we're going to learn more about what growing up in the society is like. And watch what happens as people, quote unquote, get older. And language in this is very important. Precision of language, please, right? You're not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old. You're not 10 years old. You are a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, etc. And each time you become another number, that happens at the big ceremony, you either get something or something is removed from you. All right? Track that pattern of what happens at each stage and what's happening, what that says. It's sort of symbolic. And they explain a bit of the symbolism too. But it's an interesting thing that you are not, an age doesn't describe you. You are your age. You are that number. And think about what that means. All right? So we're also going to learn some more about something called release. All right? And what happens with release, like with Roberto. And what happens when people are released? Where do they go? Why does society do that? And there's something different from a release. There's a loss. We're going to hear about a kid named Caleb, a little kid who apparently has a design flaw. He doesn't float. He has a problem with the river. And they do a thing called the ceremony of loss and a murmur of replacement. Think about how that's different from how we deal with loss in our society and how we deal with grief. I mean, how's that compare to what you see them doing? All right? And that's going to bring us up to this, the introduction of the Ceremony of 12, which is what really will kick off the next section of the book. This whole thing about you are your age, you are a 5, a 6, a 7. We also see that at birth, you're not given a name. You have a number for your first year. That's what was so controversial with Gabriel. You're just a number. Why? And also, once someone goes through the ceremony of 12, you don't have a number after that. Nobody's a 13 or a 23 or a 34 or anything else. So what are they? If you were to ask someone in this society after that ceremony, who are you? What are you? What would they answer? All right, and that will tell you a lot about this society, okay? As the ceremony is going on, Jonas is going to get more and more nervous. Why is he nervous? What does he think is wrong? And all of that will tie into this idea of him becoming the anti-hero, this big thing that worries him, that we've seen throughout this section. All right? So that's going to end the first section of the book, which establishes the society and who Jonas is. As we move into the next section and he finds out who he is, his training is going to open up a whole new world. And that new world is what's going to lead him to really question what's going on and what he values. All right? So keep track of details. Be ready for some good discussions in class. If you want to get involved in a discussion in our online Giver forum, please do so. You can post questions in there, bounce ideas around, and happy reading.